am tired. As a woman in the United States, I am tired. As a woman of color in the United States, I am tired. As a black woman in the United States, I am tired. As a black woman who is also a child of 2 immigrants, I am tired. I am tired of white people telling my black counterparts and I what racism is. Don't white-splain my trauma and experiences. This last week, I have been arguing and debating with my peers, trying to explain to them that black people deserve to live. The fact that black people deserve to live is even at question, is exactly why we protest Black Lives Matter. It's because our lives are being unjustly deprived, and somehow we still come out to be the perpetrators. Last week, I watched the Republican National Convention, and something that I heard a lot was, the United States is the greatest country in this world. And I understand it's an amazing thing to be proud of your country. I am proud to be American today. I am so grateful that my grandparents worked so hard to get their kids and grandkids and future generations in this country in order for them to have better opportunity. I know that if I grew up in Haiti rather than in the United States, the opportunities that I have today, I wouldn't have it in Haiti. The education that I'm receiving today, I would not have that in Haiti. Even the assurance that, oh yes, tomorrow I will be able to eat, I would not have that in Haiti. Even the assurance, oh yes, I am safe in my neighborhood, I would not have that in Haiti. I am so grateful to be living in this country. And I am proud to be an American, and that's never going to change. But I do not allow my American pride to cloud my judgment. And that's why I believe it is so toxic to have an ideology and belief that the United States is the greatest country in this world, and all you need to do is work for the opportunities. Because the reality is, when you have that belief, you silence the trauma and experiences that people have faced in this country. The same people who say that the United States is the greatest country in this world are also the people who deny racism and say that racism died with the abolition of slavery, but it did not. Racism is still alive in this country, and it impacts each and every single one of us, regardless of what our color or creed is. Racism still impacts us daily, and it did not die in 1865. What I'm trying to say is, it's okay to be proud of the country you're in. I am proud to be in the United States, but you cannot allow that pride to make you believe that there are no problems in this country, that problems only occur when you are lazy, when you don't work for it, because that is not the reality. Some systems, they just weren't built for someone who looks like me. Some systems just were not built for women. And no matter how hard we work, we will not receive those opportunities because those systems were not built for us. You cannot allow the pride that you have for a country to make you deny and neglect the issues that are very prevalent. It is so toxic to do that. You must call out the issues in the country while also being proud of your country. It is very possible, in the same sense that you need to call out your friend when they are in the wrong, but you still love them. Calling them out comes from love because you want to make sure that they are at their best. And it is the same when you apply it to this country. You can love this country, but you also need to call it out when it's wrong. Last week, I was disappointed, but not surprised. And I think that's a mood that all of us can relate to living in 2020. I was disappointed, but not surprised. My peer tried to justify the shooting of Jacob Blake simply because he raped a 14-year-old girl. Now I'm here to tell you that is false, and if you have heard that, it's false. Jacob Blake has never raped a minor. He was charged, though, with sexual assault made by his ex-girlfriend whom he shares 3 children with. Each are wrong. Wrong is wrong, and that's something that I believe in because I have morals. Wrong is wrong. Regardless of if Jacob Blake raped a woman or regardless of if he was charged with sexual assault, wrong is wrong, and I believe that he was in the wrong. I am not going to sit here and justify what Jacob Blake did. Regardless of what Jacob Blake has done, he still did not deserve to be shot in the back 7 times, paralyzed from the waist down, and while paralyzed, still shackled to a hospital bed while having a guard watching his door, because even while paralyzed from the waist down, he's somehow still seen as a threat. I am not going to sit here and justify sexual assault. I believe that Jacob Blake was in the wrong and still is in the wrong. However, I also believe that Jacob Blake did not deserve to get shot 7 times or even once. He does not deserve to be shot because I'm holding him accountable. And because I'm holding him accountable, I believe in the legal process and justice. Because I understand and believe in the legal process, I know that an entire justice system does not lie in the hands of a police officer. I know that there are steps to holding someone accountable who breaks the law. And a lot of people have this misconstrued belief that the legal process lies in the hands of a police officer's gun. That if you break the law, it's okay if you die at the hands of a police officer because that's their job, to kill anyone who breaks the law. But I'm here to tell you right now, that is not their job. If that was their job, then why do we have court systems? Why do we even have laws? Why do we have lawyers? Why do we have district attorneys? If that was the reality, then why do we have an entire justice system if it all lies in the hands of a police officer? It's because it doesn't. And a police officer should not have the power to determine who lives and who dies. Because when you have that much power, you are bound to abuse it. And that is the reality of a lot of police officers today. Yes, Jacob Blake has been charged with sexual assault, and yes, there was a warrant out for his arrest. But that does not mean that the whole process, the legal process, to hold him accountable for that sexual assault lied in the hands of those police officers. It did not. And if you believe that it has, then you have a misconstrued belief as to what policing is, which ties to my next point. What is policing? We don't know what policing is. I can tell you right now, I really could not explain to you what a police officer's role is other than to protect and serve. But what does it mean to protect and serve? We can all agree as to what the role of a teacher, role of a doctor, a lawyer, a psychologist, we can all agree on what their role is in society and what are their limits and boundaries. So how come we cannot agree as to what the limits and boundaries and roles are of police officers? The ones who are supposed to protect us. Because we cannot agree as to what their role is, we allow so many things to happen that should not happen. We don't even know what policing is. And that's why we need to completely break down the system and rebuild a new one so we can all stand in uniform as to, okay, yeah, that's wrong. That is not their role. And because we don't have that, we allow so much racial injustice and police brutality. There are so many cases of exceptions as to what policing is. There are no exceptions as to when a doctor is in the wrong. We have HIPAA for that. We have laws to protect us from doctors when they abuse their power. Why don't we have laws to protect us from police officers when they abuse their power? We always find exceptions for individual cases, but policing should not be inconsistent. Policing should stay consistent. And I'm going to give you the perfect example. Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle is a minor. Even though he's 17 and, he'll be 18 in a year, it doesn't matter. Legally, he's a minor. He crossed state lines. His mom drove him 20 miles from his house. He crossed state lines with a gun, and he killed 2 civilians. And the sheriff of Kenosha, he called him a vigilante. A vigilante. Someone who has crossed state lines as a minor with a weapon, murdered 2 civilians who are simply protesting the fact that Black people deserve to live. He's a vigilante. People argue, he was just trying to defend himself. There was no threat. People say that a skateboard was thrown at him. No. He shot first, then the skateboard was thrown in order for civilians to protect themselves from a minor, a 17-year-old, a minor with a gun. I think that's pretty justifiable to throw a skateboard at someone with a gun. Because let's be realistic. Skateboard and a gun. Which one do you think is more threatening? After Kyle Rittenhouse just murdered 2 people in public, he has a gun across his body. 3 police squad cars come up. His hands are up, so he's clearly guilty and he knows that. With a gun right across him, the police officers just drive by as if they just don't see anything, as if they just don't see a civilian with a massive gun that is bigger than his body and his hands up. They just don't see it. He's not threatening then. So how is a white man with a gun less threatening than a Black person without a weapon? Is it that here in America, the only weapon we need is our skin? because there are so many cases that prove that. Something else that I have seen that proves how inconsistent policing is that every single time that someone tries to justify the murder of a black person at the hand of a police officer, they always use this what-if theory. Every time a black person turns their back and someone tries to justify the murder or shooting of that black person, they're always like, okay, but when they turned, what if they pull out a weapon? What if they do this? What if they do that? But when it comes to a white person who already has a weapon, it's never what if. Why does the what if theory only apply to minorities? Another thing that people argue all the time is, okay, if you have a weapon and you're not complying, you deserve to die. Non-compliance does not warrant a death sentence. Because if police officers were able to bring Adam Zaborowski, a civilian who shot another civilian and a police officer over a mask, over wearing a mask in public. Adam Zaborowski shot a police officer and shot another civilian, and yet somehow police officers were able to bring him into a squad car and bring him to the station without a scratch on his head. He clearly was non-compliant if he shot one of those police officers, yet he's still alive today, and now the legal process has begun, as it should, with every individual. And that's why we need to have consistencies. You can't be consistent with that case, but inconsistent with every other case. What is the difference between Adam Zaborowski and Rayshard Brooks? Adam Zaborowski actually had a weapon, and somehow police officers were able to de-escalate, put him in a squad car, bring him to the station, and allow the legal process to begin, but Rayshard Brooks was too dangerous. What deems as too dangerous? This is why we need to all stand in unity as to what is policing. We need to agree on what policing is, because when we don't, we let all of these exceptions occur, and it's hurting minority communities more. Kyle Rittenhouse does not deserve to die. Adam Zaborowski does not deserve to die. They do not deserve to die. But neither did Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain. None of them deserve to die. No one deserves to die at the hands of a police officer. A legal process determines what happens to the people who break the law, not police officers. As someone who supports Black Lives Matter, I'm not going to sit here and point the finger at anyone. I do not believe in pointing the finger at anyone, because the reality is, the solution to police brutality, it doesn't lie in the hands of Donald Trump. And I know a lot of people are blaming him, and I do blame him at some points. But the solution to it altogether does not lie in his hands. The solution to the police brutality, it does not lie in anyone's hand, because the issue is not individual cops. I have respect for individual cops. I don't have respect for the system that protects them when they abuse the power. My problem is not with any individual cop. My problem is with the system, and when those individual cops are not being held accountable because of the system that protects them more than protecting citizens. That is my problem. There are so many steps to ending police brutality, and I believe that it begins at an individual level. Yes, there are systems, but there are also us within that system. We are driving that system to continue. We are allowing it to continue because we haven't really reflected and thought to ourselves, okay, am I biased in any way? Because I'm going to sit here and tell you right now, had you asked me that question if I was biased or not, I'd say, oh yeah, I'm biased. Due to colorism, I benefit from light skin privilege. I have lighter skin than my darker skinned brothers and sisters in the Black community. I have lighter skin and I benefit from that. My entire life, I have heard so many times in the last 15 years, are you sure you're not Hispanic? Do you have any white in your family? Are you Latina? You're not mixed, you're just Black? And I literally have to argue with people and tell them, I'm Black. Both my parents are Black. There really isn't any white in my family. And last year, I'd have said, oh, yeah, there's white in my family. Yeah, I'm mixed. I told people that I'm mixed because I was sick and tired of arguing with people, trying to prove my Blackness. I benefit from light skin privilege. And last year, I used that privilege and benefits for bad. I didn't fight for my darker skinned brothers and sisters. I just sat in my own privilege, lived my life as if there were no issues. And because of that, every time that I saw a darker skinned Black woman, immediately I would say, she's my competition. Every time I saw a darker skinned Black man, I would say, he's so ugly, he's not attractive. Black men are gross. Oh, he probably smokes. Those are things that me, a black person, I'm telling you as a black person, those are my thoughts. They were my thoughts. Racism, it was in me. It's in all of us. That is how strong it is. That it's so internalized that it becomes normal. It becomes just our way of thinking. It is so internalized and normalized that we all are held captive at the hold of racism until we reevaluate and think to ourselves, okay, am I biased? Because once you call yourself out, you are finally free of the hold of racism. Because now I don't think in that way that I used to think. I had that, even that slightest amount of privilege, and that's the way that I lived my life. If you are someone who is not black, think about the amount of privilege that you have, and think about what have I been doing with that privilege. The solution to police brutality lies at the hands of all of us. On an individual level, we all need to reflect and think, am I biased in any way, shape, or form? Am I using my privilege to boost myself up, or am I using my privilege to fight for others? There are so many steps to ending police brutality. And I am a strong believer in the fact that there is no progression without identification. We cannot progress as a society, as a country, until we identify the problem, because the problem lies within us as well. I am still learning on how to be an ally to my darker skinned brothers and sisters. Even as a black person, I am still learning how not to be racist. Can you believe that? That is the reality that we live in. Progression starts with us. We all on an individual level need to think, am I being an ally? Am I fighting for black lives? Am I biased? Do I have stereotypes in my mind? Yes, individual cops abuse their power, and it's their fault. Yes, there are systems that then protect them in order to continue this cycle of police brutality. Because let me tell you something right now. If police officers were starting to get held accountable, there'd be no more police brutality. If you're held accountable for something, you're not going to do it again. The reason why it continues is because they're not being held accountable. So yes, that is a part of the solution to police brutality, but it also starts with us on an individual level. I will be linking many resources down in the description box on learning about police brutality, learning how to be an ally, learning about the Jacob Blake case, and many more. It will all be down in the description box. Together we can do this. Together we can bring justice and create a system that advocates for everyone. Unity makes strength. And remember, if you're not a part of the solution, you are contributing to the problem.